let's start off with them. So we're looking at question 2, language paper 1, question 2. This will ask you to comment on the effects of language, and that's brilliant because we're really, really good at that. So this is a question where we can be really successful. Right, what do we need to do? Okay, we need to use some subject terminology. Now that might be a language feature, there's some of them on the slide. It might be a word class. Quite often, candidates are going to talk about adjectives, they might talk about verbs. Absolutely fine to do that. If you're struggling, you know you want to talk about that bit of language, but you've got absolutely no idea what language feature, what word to do, you are going to say lexical choice or word or phrase. That's absolutely fine, but we need to use an example of subject terminology when we're talking about language. Then you're going to use a quote, right? This quote is probably going to be more than a single word because that's going to give me the ability to be able to talk about multiple words in the quote, and that's going to make it easier for me to have multiple comments on effect, which is what I'm always aiming for. Right, most important part, talking about the effect of the language you've picked in as much detail as you possibly can. Good idea to use the word because that's going to explain my ideas so my examiner's not unsure about what I'm saying. And we're going to remember that this is the bit that decides what grade I get, and the more valid, well-explained comments on effect that I make, the higher my grade will go. Easy peasy. Just like AO2 in literature, this is the stuff that we are really, really good at. Right, we're going to remember to structure it with the to-quee, I am a pigeon. We're going to remember that. Terminology, quote, as many comments on effect as you can, using the word because wherever possible. Right, here are some banned phrases. It has an effect on me. Does it? How interesting. These are banned because they are vague. We don't want anything vague. This could be anything. You can write about absolutely any word, and these would all sort of work. We need to be as specific as we possibly can. So we're talking about what is the effect of that word in that context. Nothing vague, nothing to make me want to read on, none of that stuff. That is getting me a level 1. That's not for me. I'm going to be specific and detailed and developed as possible. Right, so here's our example. We've been looking at the I Am Legend extract, and the question is, how does the writer use language here to describe Neville's anxiety? Okay, so I'm focusing on the anxiety. So I'm going to start off, think about my question, have a look at my extract. Right, it's here on the slide. I'll read it through. As I'm reading, you need to be thinking, okay, what language is being used here? It might be language features, might just be word classes, might be magical lexical choice. He lay there on the bed and took deep breaths of the darkness, hoping for sleep. But the silence didn't really help. He could still see them out there, the white-faced men prowling around his house, looking ceaselessly for a way to get in at him. Some of them, probably, crouching on their haunches like dogs, eyes glittering at the house, teeth slowly grating together, back and forth, back and forth. And the women, did he have to start thinking about them again? He tossed over on his stomach with a curse and pressed his face into the hot pillow. He lay there, breathing heavily, body writhing slightly on the sheet. Let the morning come. His mind spoke the words it spoke every night. Dear God, let the morning come. Right, so when I've finished nattering over the top of the PowerPoint, you're going to come back to this slide and you're going to spend a couple of minutes reading through that extract again, looking at which bits of language you might want to focus on. I've made some in bold, and that might give you an indication of where to start, but absolutely anything is fine. Just what do you think you could say the most about in terms of Neville's anxiety? So here's a model, a question 2 model. So based on that extract, I picked the simile. The writer uses a simile where the men outside are described as probably crouching on their haunches like dogs. So I've got my terminology in there straight away and my quote. The lexical choice, more terminology, probably, shows that the character is uncertain. And this makes it seem more tense because he's obviously unaware of what's going on around him, but he definitely knows he isn't safe, which would be causing him real anxiety. The men are described through zoomorphism as being like dogs, which might be suggesting that the men have the potential to behave like predatory animals and attack them violently. The reference to dogs could also suggest that there are several of them, as dogs often hunt in packs, and this would make the character feel anxious because he's outnumbered. Additionally, the fact that the men outside are crouching could also be scary. This verb suggests that the men are waiting for him and are ready to pounce, which increases the tension in the extract. Right, multiple examples of terminology and multiple very clear, well explained comments on effect. That is what we are aiming for. Okay, this is your go now. So you're going to write one paragraph analysing the writer's use of language. So we're thinking about how does the writer use language to make Neville seem anxious, to show that he's an anxious character. We're going to use a TQI structure. And we've got in that yellow box some sentence starters that might help you start your sentences. Remember to be as specific as you possibly can and always be thinking, what is the effect of that word or that phrase in this context? What is the writer trying to make me think? And we're trying to always bring it back to that focus of the question, Neville's anxiety. Right, I'm not going to ask for you to submit this to me, but if you want to, I'm more than happy to have a look at it. I'm going to get you to submit some work for me later on in the week. Hopefully that's been useful. Remember to go back over the last few slides when you're writing your paragraph, reread the extract, which bits do I want to focus on, and then one paragraph on language. Okay, thank you.